I'm David. I used to be a professional photographer, specializing in capturing the haunting beauty of urban decay and abandoned places. My family history is rooted in a blue-collar background in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a city of grit and history, where old buildings whisper stories if you listen closely. I found my niche in those forgotten whispers, the derelict structures, the decaying grandeur that most people turned away from. My portfolio was filled with crumbling mansions, derelict factories, and forgotten hospitals across the Northeast. I sought out the raw, untamed beauty in what others discarded, finding art in decay, a silent poetry in peeling paint and shattered glass. The world is full of hidden beauty if you just know where to look. And I always knew where to look that I was meticulous, patient, and intensely focused. I thrived on solitude and the quiet challenge of finding the perfect shot in challenging, often dangerous environments. I was a rationalist, a man of science and logic, believing only what I could see, what I could capture through my lens, what could be proven. My equipment was an extension of myself, trusted and reliable, each click of the shutter a deliberate act of recording objective truth. I had a deep respect for history and the lives once lived in these places, but I'd always maintained a professional distance, never letting the grimness get to me. It was just architecture, just light, just shadows. Nothing more that my life revolved around my work. My loft apartment in Fishtown, Philadelphia, was a minimalist space dominated by my digital workstation, a small traditional darkroom setup, and shelves overflowing with photography books and dusty historical tomes. My primary companion was my loyal golden retriever, Shadow. He was a constant, comforting presence, his soft snores and the rhythmic thump of his tail against the floor a grounding force in my otherwise solitary existence. My closest friend was Sarah Chun, a vibrant portrait photographer I met in art school. She was all bright colors and infectious laughter, often trying to pull me out of my solitary pursuits. David, you spend too much time with ghosts, she'd joke, never knowing how chillingly prophetic her words would become. My old mentor, Arthur Vance, a grizzled, cynical photojournalist with 1,000 stories etched into his face, was a rare confidant. He taught me everything about light, composition, and the brutal honesty of a lens. I also had a professional contact in the police force, Detective Reynolds, from a previous historical society project, a gruff but fair man who respected my work. I had my world. It was small, predictable, and safe. Until it wasn't. My latest project, and perhaps my most ambitious, was the Blackwood Sanatorium. Nestled deep in a forgotten, heavily wooded corner of rural Pennsylvania, about an hour-and-a-half drive from Philadelphia, it was a sprawling, decrepit monument to forgotten suffering. Its isolation and chilling reputation drew me in like a moth to a flame. Rumors whispered of a dark history, experimental treatments, patient neglect, unexplained disappearances. The kind of place that made the hair on your arms stand up even before you stepped inside. I spent days scouting the sanatorium, mapping its vast, crumbling wings, its overgrown courtyards choked with weeds and thorny bushes, its desolate patient rooms filled with rusted beds, peeling wallpaper, and the faint, lingering scent of despair. The air inside was thick with dust, the faint, lingering scent of antiseptic, and a heavy smell of decay, like old bandages and forgotten dreams. It was a gold mine for my art, peeling paint, shattered windows, rusted medical equipment, forgotten toys scattered like macabre offerings. The silence was profound, broken only by the creak of settling timbers, the flutter of unseen birds in the rafters, and the rhythmic drip of water from a leaky pipe somewhere deep within its bowels. This place is a time capsule of pain. Every broken window, every stained wall holds a story, and I'm here to capture it. I began my first serious shoot, methodical and precise. My preferred camera was an old medium format film camera, a trusted companion for years, its heavy click a comforting, familiar sound. I moved through the abandoned wards, the operating theater, the isolation cells, framing shots, adjusting light, capturing the desolate beauty of decay. I paid close attention to every detail, ensuring no accidental lens flares or dust motes mar the image. This is perfect. The light, the decay, it tells a story. A sad one, but a story nonetheless. The light here is incredible, almost ethereal. It dances through the broken panes, illuminating the dust motes like tiny stars. Back in my darkroom, the familiar red glow of the safe light and the comforting scent of chemicals filled the air. This was where the magic happened, where light and shadow became tangible, where the captured moments came to life. I worked with anticipation, eager to see the result of my first session at Blackwood. As the first negatives emerged from the developing tank, I held them up to the light, my breath catching in my throat. In the background of a wide shot of an empty hallway, a faint, blurry figure. Dust. A trick of the light? I dismissed it, my rational mind already seeking explanations, already constructing a logical framework for what I was seeing. But then, another negative, a close-up shot of a patient room, revealed impossible shadows, too deep, too defined, cast by no visible object, stretching unnaturally across the floor and up the walls. And in a wide shot of the main hall, faint, distorted faces like smudges lurked in what should be empty windows, or just beyond a crumbling doorway, their features indistinct, yet undeniably human, that I told myself it was film grain, developing errors, light leaks from my old camera, or perhaps my own mind playing tricks after days in such a grim, isolated place. I rechecked my camera, my lenses, my chemicals, my darkroom setup. Everything was perfect, meticulously maintained. It has to be a fluke, a series of unfortunate coincidences. My eyes are tired, my imagination overactive. That's all it is. There's a logical explanation for everything. There always is. I tried to ignore the cold knot of unease forming in my stomach, the prickle on the back of my neck that felt like unseen eyes. Despite my rationalizations, a morbid fascination, mingled with a growing dread, compelled me to return to Blackwood. I needed to prove myself wrong, or right. I conducted subsequent shoots, deliberately focusing on the areas where I saw the anomalies, trying to replicate them, to debunk them, to find the logical flaw. The apparitions became clearer, more defined. The blurry figures now had discernible outlines, almost translucent, but undeniably humanoid, their forms shimmering like heat haze. The impossible shadows writhed and stretched, taking on unsettling, elongated forms that seemed to writhe with a silent agony. The faint, distorted faces now had features, hollow eyes, gaping mouths, expressions of profound despair or silent agony. They were no longer smudges. They were spectral presences lurking in the background, just out of focus, yet undeniably there. They appeared in multiple frames, from different angles, confirming their consistent presence. They're real. Oh God, they're real. My camera sees them, and it's showing them to me. Over coffee at her usual spot in Fishtown, a small, brightly lit cafe that felt miles away from Blackwood, I cautiously showed Sarah some of the prints. She took them, her brow furrowing, her usual vibrant energy dimming as she studied them. David, this is wild. Are you sure it's not some new filter you're playing with? Or maybe a double exposure? Your old film camera can be quirky. I shook my head, my voice strained, barely a whisper. No, Sarah, it's film, and I've checked everything. I think my camera is seeing something else. Something that isn't there. Or something that is there, but we can't see it. She saw the fear in my eyes, the tremor in my hands, and her skepticism softened, replaced by genuine concern. Okay. Look, I'm not saying ghosts, but maybe there's something about the light in that place, or the old chemicals reacting strangely. Tell you what, I'll come with you on your next shoot. 2 sets of eyes, 2 cameras. We'll figure it out. We'll debunk it together, okay? Her offer was a lifeline, a glimmer of hope that I wasn't losing my mind. Thank you, Sarah, I said, a wave of relief washing over me. Thank you. Sarah, ever the loyal friend, joined me for a shoot at Blackwood 2 days later. The drive out was quiet, filled with a nervous anticipation. We moved through the dilapidated halls, her digital camera clicking alongside my film one. Its modern were a stark contrast to my antique shutter. She was initially dismissive, joking about dust bunnies with personality and the spooky atmosphere getting to my head. We were in the old patient recreation room, a vast, empty space with a rusted piano in the corner. Sarah was framing a shot of it, her eye pressed to her viewfinder, when she froze. Her face went ashen, all the color draining from it. David, did you see that? In the viewfinder? Just for a second, a face. I swear I saw a face, right behind the piano. Before I could respond, before I could even take a step, a sudden, violent gust of wind, impossibly strong, ripped through the already shattered windows, sending glass shards flying. A heavy, rotten door at the far end of the room slammed shut with a deafening crash that echoed through the sanatorium. The floorboards beneath Sarah, already weakened by time and neglect, gave way with a splintering groan that sounded like a scream. She screamed a raw, terrified sound and plunged through the rotten floor, disappearing into the darkness below. "Sarah!" I roared, rushing to the gaping hole, my heart seizing in my chest. I peered down, yelling her name, but there was only silence, a profound, chilling silence that swallowed my cries. Her digital camera lay on the floor near the edge of the hole, shattered, its screen displaying a distorted, terrifying image of a screaming, translucent face, its features twisted in agony, a face that was undeniably not Sarah's, but was right behind her in the last moment. "No, not Sarah. It can't be. This isn't an accident. They killed her. They killed her because she saw. Because I brought her here." The cold knot of unease in my stomach twisted into a Gordian knot of grief and terror. Sarah's death shattered me. The police, led by Detective Reynolds, ruled it an accident, structural instability in an abandoned building, a tragic misstep. Reynolds offered his condolences, his voice gruff but sympathetic, but his eyes held a hint of pity, a suggestion that I was unraveling, that I needed to step away from this kind of work. I couldn't tell him the truth. Who would believe me? My grief was a raw, open wound, compounded by the terrifying knowledge that it wasn't an accident. It was a murder, a supernatural murder. They took her. Because of me. Because of this damn camera. Because I opened a door that should have remained closed. The terrifying shift intensified. I started seeing the apparitions in my periphery even when I wasn't looking through the lens. A fleeting shadow darting across my living room wall, a shimmer in the reflection of my darkened window, a distorted face briefly appearing in the corner of my eye before vanishing. They were translucent, indistinct, but undeniably there, more frequent, more aggressive, their presence a constant, suffocating weight. Sarah's face, pale and screaming, sometimes flashed in the corner of my vision, a silent accusation. MY Studio, once my sanctuary, felt invaded, tainted. The silence of my apartment was now filled with an oppressive presence, a cold, watchful dread. I became paranoid, constantly glancing over my shoulder, checking reflections, jumping at every creak of the old building. I disconnected from the outside world, unable to explain what was happening, unable to trust anyone with this horrifying secret. My art, once a source of solace, was now a source of terror, a constant reminder of the unseen horrors. My loyal dog, Shadow, usually so calm, began to whine incessantly, barking at empty corners, his fur bristling at unseen presences, his eyes wide with fear, his tail tucked between his legs. He knew, they're not just in the photos. They're here, with me. They follow me home, and they're not alone, and they're coming for me. Desperate, I took my most chilling prints, including the one from Sarah's shattered camera, to my old mentor, Arthur Vance. His small, cluttered studio apartment in South Philly smelled of stale cigarettes, developing fluid, and old paper. He was a grizzled, cynical photojournalist, a man who'd seen it all, from war zones to celebrity scandals. He dismissed them as elaborate double exposures or digital manipulation at first, squinting at the prints through his thick glasses. "David," he said, his voice tinged with concern, "you're seeing things. This place, these old buildings, they get to you. You need a break. A long one. Go to the beach. Get some sun." I argued, my voice hoarse, pleading with him. "No, Artur. Look at the consistency. Across multiple frames from different angles. This isn't a trick. Sarah saw it too, just before she fell." I showed him the shattered digital camera, the final image on its cracked screen. He looked at it, then at me, a flicker of something unreadable in his ancient eyes. He finally agreed to take a closer look, his professional curiosity piqued despite his deep-seated skepticism. "All right, kid, leave him with me. I'll run some tests in my darkroom, see if there's any trickery. But don't get your hopes up. Ghosts are for movies." 2 days later, I got a call from Arthur's landlady, her voice trembling. Mr. Vance? He had an accident. Fell down the stairs. Died instantly. My blood ran cold, a wave of icy dread washing over me. It wasn't an accident. I knew it. I rushed to his small, cluttered studio. The police were already there, the yellow tape a stark contrast to the grimy hallway. Detective Reynolds was on scene, his face grim. Tragic David. Old man lost his footing. Shame. But as I stepped into Arthur's darkroom, the faint smell of developing chemicals still lingering, a silent testament to his last moments, I saw it. On the drying line, amidst dozens of other prints, a single, freshly developed image. It was a close-up of Arthur's own face, contorted in pure, unadulterated terror, his eyes wide, dilated, fixed on something unseen. And behind him, a swirling, indistinct, malevolent shadow, its form identical to the ones I'd been capturing. It was the same kind of image I'd been capturing, but this one was of him. He saw it, and it killed him. They're hunting me, one by one. They're eliminating anyone who gets close. I'm the only one left. I'm next. Sarah and Arthur were gone. My only remaining companion was Shadow, who now cowered in corners, whimpering, his once vibrant energy replaced by constant fear. He'd bark at nothing, his fur bristling, then whimper and hide under the bed. Detective Reynolds, after Arthur's death, started looking at me differently. He gently suggested I seek counseling, his voice softer, more concerned. David, this is a lot. 2 friends gone. Maybe you need to talk to someone. Get her head straight. I'm utterly alone, a pariah haunted by an unseen world, my apartment a fortress against shadows that seeped through the walls. Driven by a frantic need for understanding, for vengeance, for a way to stop this, I returned to Blackwood. Not for art, but for answers, for justice for my friends, for myself. I focused specifically on the recurring, particularly tormented-looking female apparition that appeared in multiple shots of a specific isolation cell, always near a rusted bed frame. Her face, though distorted, had become familiar, a silent plea, a beacon in the darkness. Through painstaking research, cross-referencing old sanatorium records, I found buried in dusty archives, piecing together fragments of information from online historical societies and forgotten local newspapers, I discovered the identity of the apparition. Eleanor Vance, a patient who died tragically in that very cell in 1948. The records were sparse, but rumors persisted of cruel, unethical experiments conducted by Dr. Silas Croft, a man obsessed with psychic manipulation, and how Eleanor was left to starve after a failed procedure. Her story was one of profound suffering and injustice, buried by the sanatorium's corrupt administration. The apparitions were not random. They were the lingering echoes of Blackwood's victims, bound to the place of their torment, their tormentors never brought to justice. They want me to see. They want their stories told. And they want justice. And I'm the only one left who can give it to them. The only one left to hear their silent screams. And my camera wasn't just seeing, it was revealing stories. It was a conduit, a window into the past, showing not just the presence of the dead, but their suffering, their final moments, their desperate need for release. The camera was forcing me to bear witness, to become their voice, their final witness. This is why they killed Sarah and Arthur. They were getting too close. They were trying to silence the message. But I won't be silenced. I can't be. Knowing the truth, I felt a terrifying, yet undeniable obligation. This wasn't about art anymore. It was about a desperate, final act of witness, of defiance of justice. I returned to Blackwood for a final, desperate shoot. My heart pounded, a frantic drum against my ribs, my camera feeling heavier than ever, a burden and a weapon. I went directly to Eleanor's cell, the air growing thick with dread, the musky scent of decay almost suffocating. I set up my shot in Eleanor's cell. The air grew impossibly cold, the temperature plummeting, making my breath fog. The musky scent of decay intensified, almost overwhelming, mixed now with the faint, metallic tang of old blood. The apparitions swarmed, clearer than ever, swirling around me. Their whispers a cacophony of agony and despair, a chorus of tormented souls, echoing the screams I'd heard in my nightmares. Eleanor's figure solidified, her face contorted in a silent scream, her translucent hand reaching out, not to harm, but to implore, to guide. She seemed to be pointing, her spectral finger trembling, guiding me towards something, her hollow eyes fixed on a specific spot on the wall behind the rusted bed that I raised my camera, not just to capture, but to engage, to focus the energy, to channel their desperation. The lens became a focal point, drawing the spectral energy, a vortex of unseen forces swirling around the camera body. As I clicked the shutter, the flash illuminated not just the room, but the apparitions, making them briefly, terrifyingly solid, their forms flickering with raw anguish. The camera vibrated violently in my hands, humming with an unearthly energy, almost alive. The whispers coalesced into a single, agonizing scream, a chorus of torment that seemed to pierce my very soul, and Eleanor's finger pointed directly, unmistakably, to a loose brick in the wall behind the rusted bed. This is it. This is what they want me to find. Their truth. Their justice. Driven by an instinct beyond logic, beyond fear, I tore at the loose brick, my fingers scraping against the crumbling mortar, my nails breaking. Behind it, I found a hidden compartment, a small, dark recess. Inside, nestled in the dust, was a small, leather-bound journal, Eleanor's diary. Its pages were brittle, yellowed, but the ink was still legible, detailing the horrific experiments, the neglect, the systematic cruelty, and the names of the staff responsible, including Dr. Silas Croft. It was the truth she wanted revealed, the story she needed told, the undeniable evidence of their crimes. As I grasped the journal, the apparitions in the room shimmered, their forms wavering, their tormented expressions softening. The oppressive cold lifted. The cacophony of whispers faded, replaced by a profound, ethereal silence. Eleanor's tormented expression was replaced by a fleeting glimpse of peace, a gentle, grateful nod, before she and the other apparitions slowly, gracefully, began to fade, dissolving into the dust-filled air, finally at rest. The silence returned, but this time, it felt different. A quiet peace, a sense of release, not a watchful dread that I escaped Blackwood, clutching Eleanor's journal like a sacred relic. My body was battered, covered in dust and grime, my mind exhausted, but I was alive, and I held the truth. I released the journal to the authorities, along with my photographic evidence, the chilling prints that no one else could see, but which now served as undeniable proof, thanks to Eleanor's own words. The journal's contents were corroborated, sparking a cold case investigation into the sanatorium's dark past. The descendants of Dr. Silas Croft and other staff members faced public scrutiny, their family legacies forever tainted, bringing long overdue justice and closure to the victims of Blackwood Sanatorium, and why old medium format camera, the conduit to the unseen, is no longer just a tool. It's a relic, a testament to a world I never knew existed. I can no longer use it for my art. Its lens now sees too much, its aperture forever open to the spectral. I keep it locked away in a safe, a chilling reminder, a silent trophy of a battle I never asked to fight, a battle that cost me everything. I abandoned urban exploration photography. The beauty of decay is now tainted by the knowledge of the suffering that lingers, the echoes of torment. I can no longer maintain my detached, rational facade. My world has expanded, terrifyingly, to include the unseen. I still catch glimpses of things in my periphery, a fleeting shadow, a shimmer in a reflection, but they are no longer malevolent. They're just there, a constant, chilling reminder that the veil between worlds is thin, and once seen, cannot be unseen. Shadow, my dog, slowly returned to his old self, the fear in his eyes replaced by his usual canine contentment, as if the oppressive presence has finally lifted from our home. He's the only one left. I live with a profound, quiet understanding of the world beyond, a burden of knowledge that isolates me more than ever. The rationalist in me is dead, replaced by a man who knows that some truths are best left unphotographed, some doors best left unopened. I'm forever changed, a reluctant witness to the lingering echoes of the dead. And sometimes, in the deepest silence of my Philadelphia loft, with shadow curl at my feet, I wonder what other stories are waiting to be revealed, just beyond the edge of human perception, waiting for a lens to capture their truth, waiting for someone else to stumble upon them. And I pray, with a chilling sincerity that no one ever does. Because I know, with every fiber of my being, that the justice I brought to Blackwood was a temporary peace. The veil is still thin. In other places, other forgotten horrors still exist, and I'm the only one left who knows it, the only one left to fear what might come next.